All right, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Our speaker today is Ms. Ponka-We Victors. She's a member of the Tohono O'odham Nation of Arizona and the Ponca Nation of Oklahoma. Since 2011, she's been in the Kansas House of Representatives, representing the 103rd District out of Wichita. She's the only Native American in the Kansas legislature. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Member of the Democratic Party, serving on the Joint Committee on State Tribal Relations and the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, which she is the ranking member, minority leader. Anything else? Or Vice President of the Native American State Legislators. In 2018, last year, she was instrumental in getting a bill passed that allows Native American high school students to wear an eagle feather on their caps at graduation, which is kind of a big deal. There's been a lot of issues across the country with administrations not allowing Native students to do that. She's also been active in getting or working to get Kansas to recognize Indigenous Peoples Days, Indigenous People Day instead of Columbus Day. Let's see, you got a lot of national attention. We talked about this recently amongst ourselves when you told Kobach back in 2013 during that debate. You don't want me to say it? It's all over the news. Do you try to forget about that? Did you really? Okay, I'll let it go. You can Google it. She said, "I think it's funny, Mr. Kobach, because when you mention illegal immigrants, I think of all of you." So, yeah. Didn't Indian Country Today do a piece on that? The Huffington Post too? Okay. BA from Newman University in Wichita, MPA from Wichita State, and she's working on her doctorate right now at Creighton University up in Nebraska. Today, we kind of talked about having you talk about being a Native woman in politics a little bit. So that's what she's going to talk about, and I'll turn it over to her. Thank you. One of the best storytellers I've ever met. If you get a chance to visit with her, she tells incredible stories. So.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today with me. And I'm just excited to get away from writing my dissertation. And so I'm happy to be away from Wichita. So basically you said everything. So my name is Ponka-We. And what that translates into, I go by my Native American name. My English name is Jessica. My Native American name is Ponka-We. And so I've always went by Ponka-We my whole life. And so what it means, it's my great grandmother's name, and it means Ponka woman. So I'm from the Ponka tribe, and so my name means Ponka woman. We, in our language, means woman. And so this is at actually a women's rights rally in Wichita I think last year. And so I'm always trying to encourage our young women to get involved and to have a voice. And so that is me last year. Where's the clicker? Here it is. Okay. So before I go into about my experience as a Native American woman legislator, I will first talk a little bit about my background and how I got here. So I am from two different tribes. Tohono O'odham Nation is from southern Arizona down by Mexico. Actually, our reservation goes into Mexico. And we always say that we didn't cross the border crossed us. And so when the United States made the boundaries, they put the boundary right in the middle of our reservation. So I have relatives that are in Mexico that are from a member of the Tohono O'odham Nation. So Tohono O'odham means people of the desert. And so I'm part desert tribe and plains tribe. The Ponca tribe, originally from Nebraska, but moved to Oklahoma. And I'm two different tribes because my parents met at Haskell Indian Nations University. Back then it was Haskell Junior College. And so my mom always says she got a degree and a husband. And So I'm happy to be from both tribes, even though I grew up in Wichita. And the reason I grew up in Wichita is because on my mother's side, she was born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. During the war, my grandparents were there working the aircraft industry. They came from a reservation in Ponca City, Oklahoma. So that's how we've always been around Wichita area. And so humble beginnings, you know, my dad picked cotton back in the day. My grandparents always instilled to like the importance of getting a good education and also being proud of who you are. And like I said, I'm a third generation Kansan. I grew up in my district my whole life, North Wichita. And I have two siblings. And I'm proud to be a great great granddaughter of Ponca Chief Standing Bear and Big Snake. So this is Chief Standing Bear of the Ponca tribe, and I always say like leadership, it kind of runs in my blood. He was the first Native American. We always talk about our civil rights leaders. Well, this is my favorite civil rights leader. My great-great-grandpa, he seen justice. He was the first Native American to see justice in a U.S. court system because he had fought for Native Americans to be able to roam off reservations. At that time, we were confined to reservations. So he sued the United States that we are the same and that we should be allowed to roam off reservation. And this is one of the famous quotes that he said during that trial. And I think this is like powerful to me because sometimes I think, you know, my great-great-grandpa here didn't even know English. He had to have a translator with him the whole time. And he had to learn the law. And he probably, everything was obstacle for him, but he still did it. And he's still seen justice in the court system. So I'm very proud to be a descendant of him. And this is me when I was little. I've always been proud of who I am. And that's me when I think I was about 4, maybe 3 years old. I participate in powwows when I'm not busy at the Capitol. I practice my traditions and beliefs on both sides, my mom and my dad's side. And, you know, when I always say on Monday through Friday, I'm in this modern world. And on the weekends, I'm doing my traditional things, you know, going to ceremonies, visiting our community. This past weekend, we had our Ponca tribal celebration down in Ponca City area, Oklahoma. We camped for 4 days, 3 days. It was raining, but we hung out there. We practiced our dancing. We heard our songs. We ate our tribal food. So that's always that balance. It's good to have that balance in your life. And so I'm not ashamed of who I am. This is who I am. And so this is what I do when I get a chance. So the Kansas legislatures, we're in session 90 days from January to May. And so usually we have the summers available and the fall. And this is what I do. I'm always practicing my traditions and my culture. And so let me tell you how I got involved in politics. So since I was little, probably this age, whenever like we had an earache or is something like we were sick, we always went to our Indian health care service system. And sometimes the hospital in Wichita would be closed, so we would have to travel like 4 hours to the nearest Indian health service clinic down in Oklahoma. And back then, as a young girl, I always questioned why we had to wait 8 hours to be seen by a physician. Well, because there was only one physician in the emergency room, and we had poor health care, I noticed back then. We had physicians that nobody wanted. We always joke within our Indian community that, you know, you could go in for a heart attack and they'll give you Tylenol. You know, I mean, we have outdated equipment. So I always asked my mom, why do we have to live like this? Why do we have poor health care? And she said, well, you know, someday you can do something about that. So that was always implanted in my mind. So in 8th grade, another issue to me was during the school shootings that were happening across the country. And I wrote to my governor then and told her how unsafe I felt eating lunch. And so she wrote back to me, and that was the best thing ever. And so those kind of issues kind of, you know, always taught me to use my voice, to be strong of who I was, and to voice my issues and my concerns. And at the same time, my mother, we would, so in our Native American community, we would have Halloween parties and Christmas parties, and me and my mother, we would always raise money to give like coats away, or to give gloves away, or to give toys away, or candy, whatever we could do. So I was always giving back to the community since I was a little girl. And so these kind of things helped me see life in a different way. And so I'm very thankful for that. In high school, I was involved in student council, and I was involved in other activities. Whenever they had Native American Month in November, I was always like this in front of the classroom, because there's so many stereotypes out there about us as Native American people. And I'm always proud to share my culture, and I will always take the questions that people might find offensive. But if you don't know, you know, you'll ask, and it's always better to you know, help break down those stereotypes about us. And so I was always involved in my school and my Native American community. I just got finished with a back to school backpack drive a couple weeks ago. So I'm still giving back to my community, but this is where it all started. And right here, the first Latino woman elected to the Kansas House, I was her intern, and her name was Delia Garcia, the district that I represent now. She was the first Latina woman. And so there I am working in her office on a campaign back in 2004. And there she is right there. Now she's our Secretary of Labor for the state of Kansas. And so I did internship opportunities. So the Morris K. Udall Native American Congressional Internship I did in 2005. I got my undergraduate in biology, and I was going to be a doctor because I liked science, and I wanted to do something about the healthcare system. And somebody approached me and said, you should try this Morris K. Udall Native American Congressional Internship in DC. I never been away from home. And so I tried it, and it usually goes to like kids that are students that are going into law school. But I went ahead and I applied anyway. I just got my undergrad in biology, and I won us one of the 12 spots. So there I was. My mom was helping me pack, and I went to the big city, DC, but I learned so much. It was like eye-opening. And I was paired up with the late Senator John McCain. At that time, he was the chairman of the Senate of Indian Affairs Committee. So I was his intern. And one of our funny conversations that we had was we were walking down the hall, and he said, well, how do you like the internship experience? And I said, oh, I love it. And I'm learning a lot of things, and I think when I go home, I'll help on a campaign, and I'm going to help elect people that look like me to sit on the Senate of Indian Affairs Committee, because you all are making decisions for us when I know we can make our own decisions. And he said, that's a good idea, except I want to change something. And I said, okay. And he said, why don't you run for office? And I said, me? I said, maybe when I'm like 80, you know. And he said, I'm not going to find that offensive, but he said, I mean now. I said, no, I'm not ready now. I said, you know, first of all, I'm poor, grew up poor. I went to public school my whole life. And he said, it don't matter. He said, go home, work on a campaign. And then he said, and then I was just starting a master's program. He said, when you finish that master's program, he said, run for office, learn who your local leaders are, and run for office. And I said, Yeah, one in one ear, out the other. And I think I told my mom later that evening what he had said to me. And so um, that summer, I helped even create a bill, learned about the bill process, and it was for women in science to get equal pay. And so I helped work on that law. And I just was in the Senate of Indian Affairs Committee hearings every day. I heard about our education system. We heard about the suicides that was happening with our teen youth. It just opened my mind to all kind of possibilities. And I went home and I thought, well, I'm going to take his advice. And so I worked on her campaign, and I worked on quite a few other people's campaigns, and going door to door, licking 1,000 envelopes. And I just got involved with my party and with candidates and get to know people. And so it was a good experience. And so this picture right here has a lot of meaning. And the guy behind us is now our minority leader, Representative Tom Sawyer. He's from Wichita, too. And so the funny thing about this picture is this is the picture for the filing deadline when I put my name in the hat for state representative. And so 24 hours before this picture was taken, I didn't even know I was running for state representative. So what happened was her family owns a Mexican restaurant, good Mexican restaurant. If you ever get a chance, it's called Connie's Mexico Cafe in Wichita. They own it, and I always went over there late at night to write down notes, what she wanted me to do, write a speech, whatever. And so she called me over. She said, "Can you come over to the restaurant?" This was about midnight, and so I went over there like in my jammies, and she said, "I gotta talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I got offered a job in DC." I said, "Wow, congratulations." She said, "But that means I have to step out of being state representative." And I said, "Well, that's okay. I'll help prep whoever is going to be state representative. I know the district. I know the issues. I've talked to constituents." She said, "Well, that's what I want to talk to you about." She said, "I'd like your name to be thrown in the hat." I said, "Me?" And that May, I just graduated with my master's degree, and this was June. And she said, I said, "Okay, well, let me think about it. How many days do I have to think about it, or months?" She said, "The filing deadline's at noon tomorrow." I said, "Tomorrow?" She said, "Yes, we have to go in the car to Topeka, and I'll pull my name out, you'll put your name in. And if you're serious," and oh man, I think I was 27 then. So I went home and I discussed it with my parents. And as a Native American woman, I'm also spiritual. So I prayed about it. My parents prayed about it with me. And the next morning, I just said, "I'm going to do it." Because opportunities come once in a lifetime sometimes. And so that morning, my mother went with me and her up to Topeka. And she pulled her name out of the hat, and she took the job in DC, and I put my name in the hat. And that after I won, I became the first Native American woman elected to the state of Kansas. And and my mom. So I always volunteer for everything. Today I volunteered her to help drive me up here because I've been working on my dissertation all night. And so she came up with me, but when I got up there, they said, "Well, you're going to need a treasurer." So I looked at my mom, "Mom, can you help me out?" So she helped me out. She became my treasurer. She was also my room mother. I think I nominated her for prom chairman, too. So I really love my mom. I wouldn't be here without my mom. She's very supportive of me. And so this was a hectic day. And I cannot believe it was in 2010. And I thought I wouldn't even survive my first day, let alone here I am years later. But it's been a good experience for me. Bad experiences, but more good. This is me on the campaign trail with Senator Olitha Fascado Representative Jim Ward. And there I am sworn into office. So that another thing I came up against was, so here I am, my name's in the hat for state representative. I did have somebody run against me, but I still walked my doors. I knew what to do in campaign. I ran campaigns. And so that night before, the House clerk sent an email to all of the new representatives. And she said, we need you to wear your best suit to get sworn in. My heart sank because I thought, I don't even have a suit. I have a nice dress, but I don't have a suit. So I went to my mom and I said, what am I gonna do? Like, it's too late. Like, this email was sent at 10 at night and the swearing in was like in the morning. And I thought, wait a minute. I thought, I do have a good suit. This is my best suit. And so when I showed up that next morning, everybody was shocked and who is she and everything. But this is who I am and this is my best suit. And that's what I told them, that they're just gonna have to accept it. And the robe that I'm wearing is my grandmother's. Before she passed away, she made this, and I was 6 years old when she passed away. But she told my mother to put this away because she said someday I'm gonna need it. And so I wore that robe when I was sworn into office. And those are my colleagues on each side of me. So it was a good day, and I set the stage then. So after that, everything Native American, everybody comes to me and asks me about the issues. So here's me working in action in a hearing. And so that quote that I said to Mr. Kobach, before I left the hearing and got to the House floor, it was everywhere. And everybody, I felt like the kid when you walk up to people, they're talking about you. So that's how I felt all day, all week. And but I just had enough of him because I was on the Federal and State Affairs Committee, and these kids, undocumented students, were sitting in the front row, and I was on that committee, and he was calling them horrible names, not to their face, but to the committee. And I just had enough of him because as Native American people, no matter what, if you're a child, you protect them. And these kids looked so deflated. And I was just happy that they was there, that they was trying to take a stand against him. But he was quoting law and just how they were horrible and they were a burden to the society, and it was just going on and on and on. So I raised my hand in that committee, and I was already having a bad day. Like, I had spilt coffee on myself, car problems, you name it. So I just said, you know what, I had enough of him. And so I raised my hand, and the chairman of the committee said, you will have the last say. I said, oh, okay, I got something I want to say. And so after I had said that to him, I didn't even know what I said. And all I remember is seeing him grab his books, and he went out the door. It was just like that. Like, he didn't say nothing to me. He just turned around and left, and everybody was like, their jaw dropped. And so, like I said, by the time I left the committee room to the House floor, it was everywhere. But I'm glad that I made that statement because, for one, he never came back. He never talked about, it was a bill he was trying to repeal in-state tuition for undocumented students. And so that issue never came up again. And so this is me talking in a hearing. And so that's a part of my job is as I'm at the Capitol, I closely watch what kind of crazy bills people introduce, and I speak against them, and or I speak for them. And so this is me in action there. So the Senate committee heard my Native American regalia bill. This was last year. And it's funny because I thought, well, we're talking about regalia, I'll just wear my regalia to testify in. And so the other section is for another hearing, but we testified first, and it passed with flying colors in both chambers. So it passed in the House, it passed in the Senate, and it went straight to the governor's desk for his signature. So I'm very happy the Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation here in Kansas supported me, the Kickapoo tribe, the Iowa tribe, the Second Fox tribe. So we got 4 tribes here in Kansas. They all came to testify in support of it. We had Native American students too that came in their regalia, and they testified as well for this bill. So you would think it was like a no-brainer issue that when you graduate that you wear your best suit, or we sometimes we're given eagle feathers when we come to that chapter in our life, and we wear them on our caps. But sometimes, you know, schools, they don't understand that, and they will say, no, everybody must dress this certain way. But, you know, it's a time of celebration for us. And so I was just hearing all these horrific stories all over Kansas. So I said, you know what? We're going to fix this, and we're going to now make it law that they are free to be who they want to be when they graduate, and they can wear their regalia and their eagle feathers if they wish. So everybody was excited that it passed, but I couldn't have did it without these students to go and tell their story. And it is scary when you're up there testifying in a big committee room with representatives and with senators, but they did it, and I'm very proud of them. And that's what I like to do, is I like to be a role model and show them, like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too, because I wasn't, you know, I didn't even know that I would lead this life. I just kind of took every opportunity that was given to me, and I'm very thankful that I'm here today to help other people. So when I first got to the Capitol, the governor then was Governor Brownback, and I came in with his administration. And so one time I had a meeting with him, and I said, where are the 4 tribes here in Kansas? Like, their flags aren't even present in the Capitol. Because when I was little, I used to visit all the capitals, no matter what state we were in, and they would have like their tribal flags hanging in the Capitol. And he said, oh, well, the Indians aren't here because they don't have any issues. And I said, well, have you ever invited them here? And he said, no. I said, well, you have to invite them. We're not just going to show up and start demanding everything. I said, you need to invite them here. And he said, oh, I'll get somebody on that. And so he said, well, why don't you work on that? I said, okay, I will. So I approached him. I said, I got this great idea. He said, what? I said, I need to borrow your governor's mansion. And he said, why? I said, because we're going to come and we're going to cook traditional foods, and we're going to sit down and have a dinner with the tribal leaders and you. And we're going to invite state representatives too, and senators. He said, really? I said, yes. Okay, so we had his whole mansion smelling like Indian fried bread. And we had, buffalo, and he gave the tribes a buffalo. And we didn't agree. We didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, but we seen eye to eye on that issue. And I applaud him for that. And one day I was walking, funny story, I was walking, my mother, she likes to come see me work in action on the house floor. And so I said, okay. And so she came up one day, and I had left her by the concession stand because I had to run in there and vote on something. And I couldn't find her when I came out. And so I'm walking all over the Capitol because she's in a wheelchair because she can't walk far. And I go by the governor's office, and she's sitting in there with him eating lunch. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, this cannot get out. And she said, well, I'm having lunch here with my friend, Sam. And she said, and I told him that he better not mess with you because he's going to mess with me. And I said, Mom, you can't say that to the governor. But I bet that's just how we are as Native people, is that, our parents, they always have our back no matter what. And so, and she's very friendly. You can't take her anywhere. She'll make friends. We'll be there rest of the day. And so, but he really enjoyed my mom. And so it's that, that friendship that can look beyond, you know, issues that are very partisan. And so in 2013, I honored all the Native American veterans on the House floor. And this is our picture. And they never been to the Capitol, so they were so excited. These are all the various Native American color guards. And the picture was longer, but it was just an awesome sight. And everybody was so excited for the veterans to come to the Capitol. And as Native people, a lot of times we learn to deal with things ourselves and we keep it to ourselves. And so, like when the Kobach issue thing happened, I had a lot of threats against me. I had my supporters, but I also had people that wanted to kill me for how I talked out to somebody like that. And so I kept it to myself and I didn't tell anybody about what was going on. I just dealt with it. And I always tell people, if that ever happened to somebody else, somebody would be, really mad and would change things and everything. Well, one of the things that they had been dealing with was for 30 years, they had money taken out of their veterans checks, even though they were domiciled on federal land, state income tax. The Department of Revenue cheated them out of money for 30 years. And so they had came and told me about this issue, and I didn't know about it. Nobody at the Capitol knew about it, but they asked if there was some way to fix it. So last year, I put in a bill request, and they all came to the Capitol to testify, and it passed, and they got their money back. And even if they had, if they were deceased, their wives got that money back. And so I had to tell everybody the importance of our veterans, that they're veterans too. And this, event happened to them, unfortunately, but we can correct it. I had one person speak out against it, and he was, worried about, I don't know, some numbers or whatever weren't adding up right, and I told him, well, you can vote against it then, but remember, this is an election year. And so he ended up voting for it. He was the last person to vote for it. But it's creating those relationships that I could not do anything without creating relationships. I always say I always have 3 strikes against me when I come into a room and I sit down. And one is I'm a woman. Number 2 is my age, and that I'm Native American, and number 3 is that I'm a Democrat in Kansas. So I have 3 strikes against me before I even sit down. So I have to build those relationships with people in order to get things like this good legislation passed. So I have to, get to know who my representatives are so they can see past all of that and get to know me as a person. I've been to many farms. I've been to see the farmers' issues. I've been to areas like in liberal Kansas, and I've been to southeast Kansas, the roads in southeast Kansas to get those fixed, because I sit on the transportation committee. So just things like that, I always try to help everybody, and then when I need help, people can speak up for me and for my bills. So these are just some of the bills. This hasn't been updated, but the statute of limitations bill was one of the first bills I got passed. It was regarding a sexually violent crime. At that time, the age was 18 when you could come. The cutoff date was 18 years old, but I pushed 10 more years onto that, so now it's 28 for the state of Kansas. Driver's license bill. This is for restricted driver's license that you're able to, not with DUI, but if you didn't pay your fines or your parking tickets, that you can still drive to work. Native American Legislative Day at the Capitol. So remember I told you that I had issues when they said that Native Americans had no issues. Well, now it's a law. The first February of every legislative session that is dedicated for the 4 tribes in Kansas to come to the Capitol. So Native American students who are in foster care were going back and forth, and they couldn't graduate because they were trying to abide by state requirements, and they was trying to abide by their school requirements. So they was just getting lost in the system, and they couldn't graduate. This bill said that they only had to meet the state requirements. And also with our voter ID bill, I snuck in there that we can use our tribal ID as a form of ID when we go to the polls. A recent bill that the regalia bill's not on here, the veterans bill's not on here, and a recent bill that I passed in April was, so I don't just deal with Native American issues, I deal with all kind of issues. And another big issue to me is strengthening the penalties for domestic violence abusers. And so there was a woman in Wichita, 6 kids. She thought her abuser was in jail when she went back to the home to collect belongings and beds and stuff like that. He bonded out early, and he was watching the cameras. So when she went back, he followed her and her dad, and he ran her off the road and shot her in the head and killed her, and he shot at her dad too, and then he killed himself. Later that month, her mother and her sister reached out to me and said, this has got to change. I guess in Kansas currently you have to opt in. You have to tell the law enforcement, hey, I want to know when my abuser gets out of jail. If you don't, they don't tell you. So I didn't know that. And so learning about these different statutes and laws, we helped correct that. And so now, because you're in a frame of shock when that's all happening, you don't read pamphlets and say, hey, I would like to, know when my abuser is going to be let out of jail. And so this now gives it time so that they can seek help, and this law makes it mandatory that law enforcement will let the victim know when they are released from jail. This is my community work, and it's so funny, this picture, because I talked this guy into running for senator, me and my mom. And I said, you know what? You should come and do an ice cream social with me. And I said, you'll get to see the community. You'll get to see what we're doing. I said, and then you can run for senator or run for public office. And he said, okay. So he came, and every year I have it into school. This is at one of our community centers, and I give out free ice cream to the kids to tell them job well done. Well, now he's our lieutenant governor. That's Lieutenant Governor Lynn Rogers. So my mom always tells him, hey, I'm glad that we invited you that day to hand out ice cream. So, but we seen potential in him. He was a community member in Wichita, and he was always there supportive. And so he was senator for a while, and then he moved up he's now our current Lieutenant Governor Lynn Rogers. So in my community, I'm always giving back, like I said, and this was at an elderly center. I hand out gifts to the elderly there during Christmas and giving gifts to the little kids. So I'm always busy. I see a lot of representatives who just push buttons, or people will tell them which buttons to push. And so I'm not like that. I'm always taught to give back, and so I always try to get people involved, like Lynn Rogers or our county commissioner. I did a back-to-school supply drive with her. So I'm always trying to get people out there to try to give back to our community so that these kids can see us and we can be role models for them, because growing up, I didn't have a lot of role models that looked like me that was in Washington, D.C. and making laws. So that's what I'm glad that now we have a rising number of women running for office from all backgrounds and all different women of color. That's good to see, but I didn't have that growing up, so I had to create that. And so hopefully we can inspire these kids to run for office too, or to be a leader in their community or some kind of advocate. Um, so, and that's just about getting involved. If you haven't been in the Capitol, come and visit me. And my office is in the basement, but I'm in there. And I always say it's funny because we have a Native American on top and we have one inside. And so, like I said, I'm at the Capitol from January to May. But sometimes we go over that because we can't get along on education. And so we have to stay longer. And so, but, when I'm not in the Capitol, I'm a substitute teacher. So this is an opportunity to get to see my schools and how they're doing and what they're lacking, what resources they're lacking. I get to talk to teachers and get to work with my school principals. So that's a good opportunity for me too. And I'm also in the middle of trying to graduate with my doctorates in education because I would like to be like a professor or be in administration. So that's later on down the road. But I guess I'll take questions now. Pretty much done.
Did Senator McCain ever find out that you became a representative?
Yes, he did. After I won, I wrote to him and told him. And then I seen his Cindy and Megan not too long ago, and I told them my story, and they was so happy. And I couldn't. He's the one that planted the seed, I always say, and it came from a Republican man. But he planted that seed because I never in a million years did I ever think that I would be in this position. Never, but he made it happen, kind of putting that in my head. So, you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, one of our major issues, and maybe you can talk about it, is they allow conceal and carry on our campus. Is there any likelihood that would ever change?
It could, and I'm not, so we have a lot of issues that different representatives deal with, and that's not one of my areas. I don't know a lot about, I'm not, because it's impossible for us to know everything. But we have leaders that think they know everything. But I will admit it, I don't know a lot about that, but there has been amendments to repeal that. On the House floor side, but we just don't have the votes. And so people will always get frustrated, but one person can't change anything. We need the votes. There's 124 House representatives and there's 40 senators. So if it passed the House, it'd have to pass the Senate. So I always tell people to talk to your leaders and tell them how you feel, because a lot of times they will tell you something and also follow up. And they will do completely something different up there. So that's where we are with that. There is a couple legislators from Lawrence area who are always constantly trying to repeal the concealed carry on campus. And so I forgot something too. I forgot displaying my outfit or my regalia that I'm wearing here. And so this is deerskin right here. This is my southern buckskin dress. This is deerskin. And this is my breastplate to protect, and it's on back to protect us from like arrows, or we're walking or trees or something that could harm us. This is my birthing pouches, because when we was walking, like if a woman went into birth, we would be ready to go to help her. And I'm supposed to be wearing a long drag, but that's on another outfit. And it's a silver drag. That's what we sharpened our knives with. The beadwork is, the star is my grandmother's Native American name, meaning Migaladawi. And that's the star that's on my dress. And so my leggings are high because to protect us from snakes or spiders or something other rodents out there. And so deer is also my clan. So we come from different clans. Some tribes come from different clans, like the bear clan, the turtle clan. Down in Seminole, they have the wind clan, the alligator clan. But I'm a part of the deer clan, and that's why I wear my clan. So one fact is I can't eat deer meat. It's just taboo. So a lot of times some of the farmers will bring deer meat to the Capitol to share with us, and I can't eat it because we feel like we're eating our ancestors. So I don't eat deer meat. And the beads, I have shells, calorie shells, beadwork. The calorie we traded with back in the day for, and so that's what I am wearing today. And pink's my favorite color, and it was my great-grandmother's favorite color too. So that's the reason I have this. And this dress was made when I graduated with my high school degree, so I'm very thankful I could still fit it. But I said, Mom, I'm getting my doctorate's degree. I need another dress. So maybe she will get me a new one. But she said, no, you're supposed to be married now. Your husband should have get that for you. But I don't have time. I'm married to the Capitol, I always say. And so any other questions? Yes.
When you proposed the regalia bill, was there political opposition to it? Was it controversial?
No, it wasn't. And thank God for that. I thought it would be because they introduced the same bill in Oklahoma, and it had a lot of pushback. And I think it's education. I just educated my colleagues, and they always seen me in this, like whether it was swearing in or whether for different functions, I would wear my regalia. So they got used to that. So when it came time for that, they was like, this is a no-brainer from both sides of the aisle, because they said, you know, we always see it in you in your tribal regalia. You're proud of who you are. And I said, yeah, well, these kids are proud of who they are too. And all they want to do is just wear the regalia for graduation. And so it went smoothly, and I'm very thankful for that. But I think it's education and them feeling open, or they feel like they can ask me anything about. And let me tell you, I've had it all. I've had, I set the tone when I wore my Native American regalia to the Capitol to get sworn in, because the first question one said, wow, I never met a live Indian before. Next question was, do you still live in a teepee? Next question was, your name's something, Pocahontas or something. Like, can I call you something else? Because there's no way I'm going to learn that name. I need like a nickname for you. The next question was, I thought there was no more Indians. I thought that was just something Hollywood kind of thing, and I just thought we didn't deal with them anymore. So those are the kind of things that I got said to that first day. And so I thought I had my work cut out for me, and I could have been offended. I could have went home and gave up and said, no, I'm never going back there again. But those kind of things make me stronger. So when I went back, you know, I had an answer for them, and I would show them pictures, and I would, educate them on the issues, invite them to the governor's mansion to have Native American food or tribal leaders. When tribal leaders would come to the Capitol, I would say, you need to go visit this one. You know, they're totally clueless about, so they would visit them, or I'd invite them to the reservation. We have every year we have a meal on the Prairie Band, Potawatomi Nation. It's not far from Topeka. And we would have a meal with the tribal leaders and legislators. So now they come back and they apologize for that. And the first day of school, it was horrible because I got in a fight for my name, because I was 5 years old. I didn't even know my colors, but this boy beat me up. Or no, I beat him up because he tried to pull me off a swing because he said, get off that swing, you dirty Indian. And I said, I just showered this morning, and it was kindergarten. So I jumped off the swing because it took me a while to process, and he was already on to another play equipment. And I went over there and I just started beating him up. And right then the teacher came and grabbed me, and I broke his glasses, and the teacher's like, "You're gonna pay for his glasses." But the face reaction, I'll never forget when I said, well, he called me a dirty Indian. And it was just like, shh, like, don't say that, you know? So we went to the office, and my mom thought it was my brothers that got in a fight. It was me. I already ripped my new dress. And, but from that day forward, I knew that I had my work cut out for me just by my name. So when I get to the Capitol years later and they say, can I call you something else? My grandmother was alive then, and she taught me to say, it took us hundreds of years to learn your names. You can take 5 minutes to learn my name. So that's what I told that person at the Capitol. And they said, oh, okay, you know, I'll learn your name. And I said, and don't forget the representative either. So, so, you know, that's helped me become a stronger woman. You have to have some thick skin to be in politics, especially a woman and a woman of color, Native American woman. I already have my work cut out for me, but I hang in there. And so I cannot believe I'm on my 5th term in the House. So any other questions? Yes.
Did your ethnicity come up during your campaigns?
Yes, because a lot of people thought I was full Hispanic, which I am part Hispanic, but they thought they would try to speak to me in Spanish and I wouldn't understand them. But when I would tell them who I am and where I'm from, they'd understand, because Wichita has a rich history with the Native American culture. We have a Native American Indian Center there, and my mother always taught me that along that riverbank is where our tribe used to camp a long time ago. So I would tell them things like that, and then they came back to work in the aircraft industry. And so it did, and then the questions came after that, you know. So, and like I said, I'm always open to educate everyone before I get stereotyped. So, any other questions? Anybody know who our current governor is? I always just try to shoot out questions to kids, but it's important to educate others. And if you don't know, then come see as an action at the Capitol. And so I guess that's it.